The weekly transit.
Astrology is a language that communicates how the planets and stars influence life on Earth. I'm Scott Tajarian. I'm an interpreter of this language. Join me and my co-host Ingrid Iverson, who helps bring an even more practical look at this astral language. The weekly transit is here to bring clarity to the chaos, so you can ride the planetary waves instead of the planets riding you.
The weekly transit.
Good morning, Scott.
Hi, Ingrid.
Oh, man. This month has been very much like a whirlwind.
How so?
I mean, maybe 2 weeks ago, I was feeling like absolute dog shit for like a while. And then last week, I felt like I cleansed some shit out.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think there's still some like, these cycles. It's like almost like the tests where it's like, you feel better, but then those things come up again. You don't just get to clear it out in one time.
Mm-hmm.
They come back and visit you again, and maybe it's not as hard as the first time, but it's still there. You don't just get to heal instantly. You just like have one good cry, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm fixed.
Yeah, no. I like that you bring up cycles. I had a client just asking me about cycles. There's the moon cycle every 28 days, and that brings up a lot of the same stuff. It's interesting. It's like you might see that if you're paying attention to how you're feeling, I would encourage you, Ingrid, to really...
Are you going to say write it down?
Maybe. Like when you feel bad or like defeated or whatever, write down the time and date and let's, we could maybe keep a log.
We kind of were doing this when we first met.
Yeah.
I would be writing down much more specifically when the issues were happening.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's when I started really being like, oh, this astrology shit is for real.
Yeah.
Because you'd be like, at Gen 02, your moon moved into a square. And I'd be like, oh my God, that's when I started losing my shit.
It's interesting because like I'll see where it's like, oh, the moon is here again. So this is why you're fighting with your girlfriend or your boyfriend or whatever it may be. It's like
again.
Yes. It's like the moon is in that place where it's like things get crunchy for you in whatever way that is. So,
I've also been thinking, I think one of the listeners maybe mentioned it, but I hear it all over the place. Also, like men have a 24-hour cycle and women have a 28-day cycle.
Huh.
And so maybe especially if your menstrual cycle is in tune with the moon cycles,
mm-hmm.
you're maybe living in a more like harmonious alignment and able to track what is happening instead of, there's like chemicals and birth control and I don't know, whatever else affects our cycles,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe tracking kind of like what's happening emotionally with the moon cycle as well as with my period.
Yeah.
Yeah,
totally.
'cause that definitely, like, all of those hormones affect you also.
Yes.
And I think that ideally you would be on the actual moon cycle, so they would be synced up.
Yeah, so when it's like the full moon, you're
the
bleeding.
release.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
And I think whatever technology and all the shit that gets us out of whack, maybe that is also like contributing to the like not being in rhythm.
Yes, exactly. It's taking us out of our rhythm, out of our flow. And so
Quite literally.
Yeah. Yeah. Literally. Yes. So there's that cycle, but then there's all these other cycles that are happening at the same time.
All the different
cycles.
planets.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like you have the moon, which is a 28-day cycle. Then you have the sun, which is a yearly cycle. And Venus and Mercury are yearly cycles, roughly. Mars is like a 2-year cycle. Jupiter's a 12-year cycle. Saturn is a 29-year cycle, but it's really like you break Saturn down into like 7-year cycles.
Really?
Where it's, because it's like the Saturn return happens around age 28, 29, 30. Well, you divide that by 4, and
So
it
then you have
comes down
each
to around
season.
7.
Okay.
So you've heard the phrase, and I think we've talked about this before, but like the 7-year itch.
Yeah. Yeah.
The first 7-year period is when it squares your Saturn. So when you're 7, let's say Saturn is squaring your Saturn. And then at 14, Saturn is opposing your Saturn. 14, 15. Wait, is that... Yeah, and then at 20, 21, 22, Saturn is squaring your Saturn again.
I mean, that is such a... I mean, 21 is a big mile marker.
So is 14 and 13, 14, and 7. You know, like age 7, you know, you're no longer like
a baby.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're a person now.
You dress
you're
yourself. You can feed yourself.
Yeah, you're not
You're
a baby.
going to school.
You
for the
kind
whole
of
day.
thin out. You don't have those like, you know, the cute like
chubby cheeks.
Chubby cheeks. You know, you kind of look like you're a little person. And then at 13, 14, you're entering puberty, and you're a teenager now. You're no longer a little kid. You're
That's
in that
like middle
tween.
school.
Yeah, it's like you're in 7th, 8th grade, going into high school, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's a transition.
It's a
for
big
sure.
transition. And then the next one is 21, 22, and you know now you're considered an adult in some.
Yeah, you're like
cultures.
maybe moving out of your parents' house.
You're done with college. You're now in the workforce, that sort of thing.
You can drink.
You can drink.
Which is like a nightmare. I think that's maybe like not a good time to be like, oh, now you can drink. You're like going through this huge transition, and then like the alcohol is there to just start like medicating yourself.
Isn't that interesting? I wonder if like if that's for that reason, or if it's like just like a random occurrence where it's like, okay, now you're an adult. Start medicating yourself. Start
Really?
numbing yourself.
I wonder if it has anything to do with like development, where you're like, oh, your brain is fully developed, so you're not going to like damage your growth or something. I don't know. I mean, back in the day, they probably didn't even think about that shit or even know. Everyone was fucking drinking, smoking cigarettes in the 50s while they were pregnant. So
yeah,
that probably wasn't a factor.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, and that
It's
hasn't changed
interesting.
in a really long time. The age.
Yeah, the drinking age.
Yeah, and even driving. I'm like, bitch, I should not have been driving at 16. I was like putting on mascara, fucking changing my clothes, eating a hamburger, texting all at once. Like,
yeah. I wasn't texting. We didn't have texting when I learned to drive, but
texting had just started when I learned to drive. I had maybe a little before that.
But I was driving like a maniac.
Were you?
Yeah. One time my mom was like, so I heard you were driving down Annandale Avenue. You were probably going over 100 miles an hour.
Oh, God.
And I was like, what? She's like, yeah, I have eyes and ears everywhere. It's a country road.
Yeah,
your
mom's friend's like, yeah, he fucking flew past me over here.
Exactly.
I saw him.
Yeah, I'm so lucky and thankful that I'm here, you know?
Dude,
when you
same.
think about how reckless, you know, it's like, I don't know. It's like, yeah, just not being reckless.
So I want to move into like the next age bracket because, okay, what's after 21? 28?
That's 28, 29. That's the Saturn return. So realize you're like, holy shit, I actually can't just fuck around the rest of my life.
I feel like at 21 we think we're grown.
Yeah.
Like there's this idea that we're like, oh, we have it figured out. We're grown-ups. But then when I turned 28, I was like, oh, fuck. I actually just got a grown-up now. Like I just got like this coming of age at 28, really.
Yeah.
And then, so what's after 28? 36. Oh, I'm 36. Fuck.
Yeah, and you're going through it again. Well, no, 28 would it'd be like 34, 35.
Oh, wait, I can't do the math. Yeah, 35.
35.
Okay, so
and you're 35.
Yeah.
You're about to turn 36.
Yeah.
Or according to this podcast, you've already turned 36 because this is after your birthday.
But that makes a lot of sense. This last year has been a very big transition for me.
Yes.
And it's, even though I'm older, like as we age, maybe we think that the transitions will become smoother, but it's very jarring to have like a lot of life shifting things happening to you. It's really hard to manage. Like maybe when I was in my 20s, like I would overdrink, but after I turned 28, I really stopped drinking so much, like rarely at all, and I wasn't overdoing it. And then this, like not last year, but like coming into that year, like coming into that transition, 34, I was fucking drinking all the time. I could not handle what was happening in my life. The transition was so uncomfortable. What about you? Because you used to party a lot. When was like your transition that happened where
Oh my
you were?
God, that was the Saturn return. That was the Saturn return. I remember, I mean, it's so vivid to me. I remember I lived in this house in the Hollywood Hills. I'm like, okay, this is it.
This is it.
But I was so just like, man, I remember sitting on this chaise lounge, giant big screen, projector screen TV that wasn't on, but like this to give you the idea of what this house was like, and like looking outside, and there's like just a view of like the hill behind our house and everything. And man, I was in so much darkness. I was doing a lot of drugs and drinking and fooling around with women that I shouldn't have been fooling around with. And I remember just thinking to myself, like, this is my life.
In like
This is
a not good way.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm going to be 30 next year. And I remember my cousin's wife she gave me this gift. I can laugh about it now, but I was so hurt by what she gave me. It was a picture of the cast of 30 something as this show that was popular like in the 80s. It was called 30 something, and it was the cast of the show, and she had like cut out a picture of me and put it in there. And she's just like, one more year of your 20s, and then you get to join the cast of 30-something. And I was just like, fuck. And fuck you. Like,
I don't know what that show was about.
it was about people in their 30s.
Oh, you just weren't ready for that, or?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. And I remember my...
You just wanted to keep partying.
No, I didn't
Oh.
want to keep partying, but I was just like really disgusted and ashamed of myself.
Oh, because
and
she kind of like called you out a little
No,
bit?
she hadn't. She wasn't that she was calling me out. She was just making a joke that like,
Yeah.
hey, you're going to be 30. Like, I just felt horrible because I felt like this is not where I was supposed to be when I was when I'm 30. I'm not meant to be in this situation right now.
Yeah.
Where I feel like I haven't accomplished anything in my life. All I've done is like party my ass off, and I'm waiting tables, and I don't like it. And what do I do to cope is I drink after work, and I stay up till, the sun comes up, and I feel like shit the next day, and then I just pull it together and go back again. And my life is meaningless, and I haven't accomplished even close to anything that I even dreamed about or hoped that I would accomplish. And, she gave me this gift, and it was like staring me right in my face like, I'm a fucking loser. I am a loser. My life is a failure. And I remember my uncle, her father-in-law, my cousin's dad, who's not a man of like, he doesn't say a whole lot, but sometimes he says some things and I'm just like, oh damn, he could, I don't know, I guess he could tell how I was taking this. He's a really gruff person. Like he's a cattle rancher, like he spends all day on his horse, like rounding up the cattle and that sort of stuff on his ranch. And he just was like, 29 was the hardest year of my life. That birthday was the hardest of my life. And I was like, really? Why? He's like, I don't know. I just remember feeling like my life is over or something. And, at the time I had no idea of astrology. And And then later when I found out about it, I was like, oh my God, okay, that makes sense. But it was that
Fucking
moment.
Saturn return.
It was that moment sitting on the chaise lounge, looking out the window. I was like, I need to get my life in order. I need to fucking start making different choices in my life, because the choices that I'm making have led me to this point, and I'm fucking pissed off at myself. I hate myself, and I need to make different choices.
Yeah.
And so from that moment on, I started making different choices. It's not like I stopped partying like
Overnight.
cold turkey. Yeah, exactly. But it was in my mind that like I need to make different choices. I'm being more aware of the choices that I'm making. I'm recognizing this is a bad choice. What's a better choice? Okay, I'm going to choose the bad choice, but at least I'm thinking about the better choice. And then eventually it's like, no, I'm not going to choose this bad choice anymore. I'm going to make the better
100%.
choice. And it's like slowly but surely, working my way. It's a fucking decade. It wasn't until like it was 11 years later when I was 40 years old, and I was like, okay, I haven't accomplished what I want to accomplish in life, but at least I can see that I've been putting in the work to like do something and make something of my life. And I can see that I've made progress and I'm getting closer to my goals and ambitions, and I don't hate myself. I feel like, I made it to 40. I can't believe I made it to 40. I'm so grateful that I'm here. And then it was 9 months after that I discovered astrology. And that's when my life really started to change. But it's a journey.
It's definitely a journey. I think we just being more soft with ourselves as we age, to be like, the progress isn't always as easy as just making the choice and being like, oh, I want to be different. I'm not happy now. It's like these little baby steps of incorporating, just making the bad decision over and over again, but knowing it's a bad decision this time instead of being numb and just completely unaware of what choices we're making. And then eventually being able to not do the thing. And like that's a long transition in itself. Like maybe some things are easier than others, but the progress, I think focusing on progress more than like the achievement of like the thing is maybe more important.
Yes.
Just putting one foot in front of the other instead of just like obsessing on the completion of something.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I was telling someone today, I was like, if you're spending all your time with the eye on the prize, like looking up at the top of the mountain, you might fall off. Your foot might fall off the edge.
Oh, I love
so
this.
So you have okay, be aware of where you're going, yes, but also be aware of where you are right here now.
Dude, I feel like that's maybe a lot of what I have been going through, because I'm like, I don't have this thing that I want. I don't have this thing that I want, and it's making me fucking crazy. And that's all I can look at. And then I'm just like falling into a black hole. It's just like the baby steps. If you're taking baby steps and you're looking at where you're going and you're appreciating the small amount of progress, even if it's little.
Exactly.
Even if you're going back a couple steps and forward a couple steps, that's
Exactly.
more important than like looking straight up and, like you said, falling into a fucking black hole.
Exactly. That's it. I mean, think about where you were over a year ago before you moved into your place here,
Oh, I was drinking a lot.
But, it's like,
Yeah.
look at how much progress you've made. And so that's the other thing that I was saying to this person today was like, you look up at the mountain and okay, but is that when you're going to wait and enjoy the view when you're
all the way at the top?
I've climbed Half Dome twice. And yeah, and not up the face.
Same. I got to the top, but I would not go to the very.
No, I went to the top.
Oh, I did not go to the top.
No, but there's the face.
Oh, I see.
And then there's the cables that take you. It's still like if you fall off those cables, you'll die.
No, I got to that part and I was like, I'm not fucking climbing up these ridiculous cables.
No, I climbed up the cables. But if you're waiting until that moment to enjoy the view, I mean, the climb up, like the views are incredible along the way. There's so many times where I would stop and just look around and be like, wow, here I am. This Yosemite is...
It's insane.
It's so magical here. And so if the whole time I was just staring up at Half Dome and not looking at everything else around me, it wouldn't have been as good.
You would have missed out.
Exactly. And so we have to appreciate life in that way. And, in this last year, I've been going through my Saturn squaring Saturn. No, Saturn opposing Saturn. So, and there's been challenges. But because I'm following my North Node, I am reaping some of those rewards. And so when I was 29, I wasn't following my North Node. And so I was being punished.
So we should probably move into the week, but I feel like we covered a lot of really amazing stuff.
Yeah.
And also even got to know each other a little more. Just hearing all of the pieces along the way is really special. It makes me feel less like a fucking idiot over here because you're almost 10 years older than me, 8 years
I'm
older?
11 years older
11,
than you.
okay.
Yeah.
So it's like
Exactly.
you already had these cycles, and I'm like,
Exactly.
I always look at you and I'm like, oh, Scott has his shit together, and I'm just like, hearing that you didn't always have your shit together makes me feel like, less of an idiot.
And I feel like, people think you're kind of an asshole when you say well, when I was your age. But when I look back at where I was at 36, I was fucking miserable too. I was my life is not where I want it to be. I'm really frustrated. I'm working really hard. I've gone past that Saturn return. It's 6-7 years later, but it's that 6-7 year later kind of game, where it's oh God, I've been working so hard, but I'm not reaping the rewards in the way that I want to, and I'm really fucking pissed off, and I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And I hate life and all those sorts of things. And you're going to get through it. You just have to grind through it. I don't know what else to say, but grind through it. One foot in front of the other. That's it. Life is a
that's really
struggle.
all we can do.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no magic ticket. You could just take a helicopter to the top of Half Dome, but that's not even rewarding.
The magic ticket is following your North Node. And this is why I am fucking on you to show your face. And when you think about how far you've come from being on the floor, not being able to hear your voice, crying, to now we're recording here and people can actually see you. Your North Node is in Aries. And Aries is a sign that rules the face. So you need to show your fucking face. You have to have the courage to show your face.
I posted something on Instagram today.
You showed half your face. So
that was the first thing Scott said when he saw me. He's like, there was only half your face. I'm like, oh my God. Okay, fine.
Oh my God, Ingrid.
I'm working on it.
All right. So I want to thank our listeners for listening, of course. But I want to give a shout out to a few countries because, of course, the United States, last week we were in the top 200 of the educational podcasts and the top 100 of the self-improvement podcasts. But also want to give a shout out to our friends in the North, Canada. We were in the top 300 for education and the top 200 for self-improvement. Also want to thank New Zealand. We were the top 200 for education and the top 100 for self-improvement. But Latvia coming in strong. We are number 6, the number 6 podcast in the education department and the number 4 podcast in self-improvement. It just trips me out. But I want to give a shout out to Tanzania because in Tanzania, we were in the top 200 of all podcasts in this country. And we were number 5 on education and number 4 in self-improvement. And I want to thank our sponsors, Larry, Deborah, Haley, Libby, Abby, Clarissa, Janine, Ricky, Amaranth, Vincent and Michelle, Catherine, Brenna, Stephanie, Kimberly, Grace, Lori, Carrie, Annie, Brooke, Joanne, and Amber. Thank you for your support of the Weekly Transit Astrology Podcast.
Yeah.
Skip ahead.
So if anyone doesn't know, you can go listen to just each day of the week. If you want to do a review, you go to the show notes. There's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever. You click on it. It goes right to that day, which even I use when I'm like, okay, what the fuck is happening today? I go back and I listen. I'm like, okay, Scott, what was happening on Thursday? I was having a fucking meltdown.
I love it.
Oh, and okay, one more thing before we
Yeah,
get into the week. We have our beautiful faces out in the world. And so that's on YouTube or that's on Spotify. You can see us. So hello,
hi.
everyone.
Yeah, we're at Studio Ingaroo. This is Ingrid's studio.
All right, tell me what the fuck is going on this next week.
Okay, so Monday, September 5th. This is the week of September 5th, September 5th through the 11th. And Monday, September 5th, we're looking at the moon, the planet of emotions, in the cardinal earth sign symbolized by the goat climbing that mountain, forming a square, a stressful aspect with Mercury, the messenger of the gods, guide of souls to the underworld, the planet of consciousness, communication, and coordination in the cardinal air sign symbolized by the scales. So, communication on Monday could be on the fritz, and that's a big theme for the week, communication, because this week Mercury goes retrograde. So
Would this be like communication in terms of our emotions and our career goals?
yeah, sure. I think, with the moon moving through, and this is the cycle, whenever the moon is moving through Capricorn, we all become like someone who was born with the moon in Capricorn. Suddenly, our emotions are more focused or drawn towards what we're working to accomplish and achieve.
Maybe I'm also already feeling that energy. Like, I feel like that's been like the hot topic right now, is feeling like emotionally charged about not being where I want to be and maybe not communicating that in the most balanced light. I mean, this is Libra, so even though it's a square, it's like maybe tapping into that balanced energy to express what we're feeling without it being like fucked up and like mean or like chaotic. Just letting people know that something is going on with you and you're trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Well, no, I think you hit a lot of great points here. So it is about having the eloquence to share.
Gracefully.
Yeah, to gracefully share what it is you're working to accomplish and achieve that would satisfy you emotionally. And especially looking at those partners that you're working with. Maybe this is a day where there's some bumps in the road with the person or the people that you're closely working with, where you're at odds with each other.
I mean,
and so you have to create the space for the communication to happen.
I mean, it's Libra is the scale, so it's like, don't just drop a big weight on one side. It's like, if you want it to go well, just gently placing something on one side and
Yes.
letting the other person balance it out.
Yes.
Trying to be soft about it.
Yes, exactly. So how can I gracefully communicate my ambitions? How can I gracefully communicate the ambitions that I have that will satisfy me emotionally to those that I'm in partnership with?
It's a perfect question.
Maybe there's something that you need to talk about that you've been avoiding that needs to come to fruition. Tuesday, September 6th, we're looking at the moon again in Capricorn, now forming a supportive trine. This is with Uranus, the planet of revolution, rebellion, innovation, independence, and the unexpected, in the fixed earth sign symbolized by the bull, Taurus. So this is an Earth-Earth connection where now that we've had this conversation, this difficult conversation, now we can really get into the foundation of our self-worth and what we value and how to bring that need for independence to ascend towards what it is we want to achieve. We're working with other people, yes, but what is it about what you aspire to achieve that is yours and yours alone?
Well, I'm really seeing the Uranus is the revolution. So all of that, but thinking about it in a new way, like you were feeling really frustrated maybe yesterday and you were trying to like gracefully express it, but maybe through that conversation and expression, now today you're like, okay, I need to value myself in a different way, do something different with my finances, my material surroundings, like a shift there. And that's going to fulfill us emotionally. So that's the moon in Capricorn, the emotional fulfillment from whatever goals and achievements we're looking to do. Like,
yes. How to look at it in a new way.
which, I mean, it's a trine, so that feels very exciting because it can be really scary to make a big change, but it seems like today it just feels natural. You feel grounded in that decision to make a shift.
Go with the flow. Go with the flow here. Yeah. But grounding it in what's important to you. You know, like I think about like you and I here. Like we have a common purpose, which is this podcast. But what I want from the podcast versus what you want for yourself from the podcast, it might be different, but they can work together for a common cause. But what you want out of it and what I want out of it are unique to each other.
I mean, we had such a great conversation about that last week, and I feel like in the end, both of us, at least on my end, I'm like, well, I felt like very emotionally fulfilled, but it was like, there was an uncomfortable moment first where it's like, oh, like, how do I say the thing? Like, and then getting it out there to be like, okay, this is what I want. This is what you need. Like, how do we both get what we need and feel emotionally fulfilled from it? Because it's something that we both love to do and we both put a lot of energy into. So how do we, become emotionally fulfilled? By sharing our values with each other and telling each other like what we need and what we want to be happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Yeah, that's that Monday difficult conversation, and then Tuesday it coming together.
I mean, I feel like we've had not tons of those, but quite a few, and every single time after the uncomfortable moment, I'm just like, oh my God. It feels so good to get it out, and I think both of us really care about each other, and we want to have a positive outcome, and afterwards I'm like, oh my, it didn't even need to be that uncomfortable. It's just like, you don't want to like hurt someone's feelings or do something bad, and then in the end it's like we have to share our values with each other, otherwise there's no way we can like support some sort of like path if we don't know what the fuck is going on with the other person.
Exactly. But that's part of what the cycles are about too. It's like you said, every now and then we have to have these conversations. We have to check in with each other. How are you feeling? How do you feel about the podcast? What's the energy you're putting into it? Does it feel like you're getting out what you want to get out of it? Or you feel depleted? You can't just have that conversation once and then everything's good for, the end of time.
Yeah,
because
totally.
things change. And so we have to continue to bring it up, to have these conversations. And that's life in general, whether it's a lover, a friend, a business partner. Going back to, why are we in this? What's going on here? What do you want? What do I want? Does this work? Having those conversations. We can't avoid those conversations. The more you avoid it, the more the conflict comes up in an ugly way. So Wednesday, September 7th, the sun, the giver of light, life, and vitality, transiting through the mutable earth signs symbolized by the Virgin, Virgo, forming a supportive trine with the North Node, the soul's purpose, and the karmic pathway of the soul in Taurus. So this is another earth connection. So this week is really feeling about like grounding in and like doing the work and bringing things into reality, slowing down. With Mercury about to retrograde now, it's about slowing down and making sure that the work that you're doing is reflecting your self-worth and your values.
I mean, this both of these days feel really good. It's like yesterday there was like this revolution and you're like, I'm going to do things in a different way. Everything's going to be good. I'm kind of reflecting on what is important to me, what my values are. And then today, the sun in Virgo, it's like maybe you're going to critique it, and that doesn't need to be negative. Like the Virgo is the critic. It's kind of picking things apart and looking at all the pieces. It's like, okay, well, what is working? Well, what isn't working? Okay, well, once I do that, like that's going to, like the North Node in Taurus, that's going to fulfill my soul's purpose in the material when I'm, taking things out that don't work and putting more things on my plate that do work.
Yes, looking at the details and eliminating what is holding you back and getting things more streamlined. Like this thing that I'm working on, do I really value this? No. Is it really helping me get to where I want to go? No. So why am I spending time on this project, whatever it is? So we're getting streamlined here.
I mean, even just today, like we started making the YouTube videos. It's just always more complex than I think, and it's just adding a lot to my plate. And I was like, okay, well, how can Scott help me do that easier? And so there's the little cards that have the alignments on them, the photos with all of the drawings that he makes. I'm like, now he's making each one for me, so then I can just plug it in instead of having to like create those. I'm like, oh my gosh, this takes something off my plate, and Scott's already kind of doing it. I helped you last week dial in a format so it's easier for you, and then it's easier for me, and we're both winning. We both have more time in our day, and it's, then we're able to show up more energized. Like the efficiency is so important when we're like wasting our time doing little things, because Scott was doing more work than he needed to, and so was I. It was just like, oh my God, we both were wasting like a fucking hour both of our days redoing this thing, and having the uncomfortable moment and being like, okay, now we can fix it and make it easier for both of us. Like, okay, great, now we're just both happier. Good thing we talked about it. What the hell?
I love it. Yes.
And then
that's why you have to, yes, go ahead.
Oh, also, if you don't have the basics of astrology, the book that Scott wrote, it shows all of the symbols and alignments that we show here. If you get the newsletter, you see it. If you go to the website, theweeklytransit.com, there's a blog that features everything we talk about here. It's kind of an overview of the week, all the kind of journal prompts and questions you should be asking yourself. And then it's a way to learn astrology. So if you want to learn more, get the book. We have it available for download on your Kindle for $10, or there is a paperback version that you can get. It's on Amazon.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and the email that's going out is, I send it out. It comes out every week when I post the forecast on the website. So,
and that also kind of correlates with when we release the podcast. So it's like it all goes out together.
Exactly. It's like a package of, you have the book, you have the forecast, you're looking at the symbols, you're using the book to decode the symbols that I put on the forecast, and then you have the podcast listening in at the same time, giving you a deeper perspective. And on the forecast on the website, a lot of question prompts.
The questions, I think, are so impactful. So whatever we talk about on here, if you miss it or whatever, you can go look in the show notes for each day of the week to listen back, or you can just go to the website and see all of the prompts, the questions. I think those are like, I use them as journal questions, really.
Yeah.
They're so insightful.
I love it. I've been putting them up. I'm working on upping my social media game. I've been posting them on Instagram and TikTok. Yes, I have a TikTok now.
All these fucking social media.
I'm a 13-year-old girl dancing, and
if you want to see Scott dance, go look at the TikTok.
No, I'm not dancing on TikTok, though. My brother-in-law was like, you should do like, and I thought it was a good idea. It's like, this is the dance for Aries today. And
some interpretive dance. I'm on it.
Exactly. Okay, Thursday, September 8th. Uranus again in Taurus, connecting with the moon again, except now the moon is transited to the next sign from where it was in Capricorn, the fixed air sign symbolized by the water bearer, Aquarius. So on Tuesday, the on Tuesday, the moon was trine Uranus. That's supportive. Thursday, the moon is squaring Uranus. That's stressful. So now the emotions have moved into the community, to the group context. It's like Capricorn is my ambitions and my responsibility towards my ambitions. Aquarius is my ambitions for the group and my responsibility for the group. What am I meant to contribute to society, to the community, to the group context? So now we're taking that feeling, those ideas, and we're bringing them into the group, and maybe they're not being received in the way that you'd hope that they would have been.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Absolutely. That's what I see. Like, the revolution in Taurus, it's like you're doing things in a new way, and the community is like, nah, we don't like it like that. We don't like your idea.
Yeah.
But also, is it Uranus is also the freak, right?
Yeah.
So that's like, you're not supposed to always fit in and do what everyone else is doing. And not everyone needs to accept you or your ideas. And
Right.
That's fine.
Exactly. And, Uranus is the planetary ruler of Aquarius, so that kind of pumps this alignment up even more because it's connecting to the moon, which is exalted in Taurus. So the moon has power in Taurus, where Uranus is, and Uranus has power in Aquarius, where the moon is. So there's some sort of emotional shakeup here where maybe you have to have that rebellious sort of attitude that, like, well, you don't like my idea, but yeah, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to do it anyway.
I mean, the moon in Aquarius, it's like Aquarius can also be a little bit detached of emotion. So it's like maybe that all this is happening where you're not being accepted, but you can still have that I don't give a fuck attitude. Like, okay, you don't have to be mad about it, but you're like, okay, you don't like it. I also don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Or if you're feeling affected by it, just remembering all of these things, remembering that not everyone needs to accept you, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Not everybody likes you.
Yeah.
I'm sure not everyone likes me. Okay, cool. Like, I don't like everybody else either.
Yes.
And that's fine. It doesn't have to be a mean thing. It's like we don't resonate with every single person we meet.
Yes.
And that doesn't make you like bad or negative, or like if you're tapping into the Taurus, which is that self-worth, then it just matters less. It's like, okay, I love myself for who I am.
If you're honoring your self-worth, then you can appreciate the fact that not everyone's going to like you. And people have differences. They have different ideas, different likes and dislikes, different opinions. We don't all have to get along. There can be some of that friction there.
I always end up bringing this up, but like, I feel like that's kind of the cancel culture is like, we don't agree, so fuck you, and I'm going to cancel the shit out of you. No one's ever going to talk to you again.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, I mean, maybe in some cases there's some extreme thing, but like most of the time, I feel like these things are really like getting mean. Okay, you don't like that person.
That's bullying in a sense.
It is.
It's like that's like schoolyard bully, and it's really the shadow side of Aquarius, where everybody has to follow a certain rule. Everyone has to be the same, and it's like the light side of Aquarius is no. What makes every group amazing is its diversity. I just think of like,
if you were like, you're like the astrologer, and then I knew everything about astrology, like what would we be talking about?
Totally.
Would just be both saying the same thing all the time?
Exactly. It would, there's no flavor. You've got to have that onion or that garlic that you're not going to eat on its own, but when it's in the dish,
I love that.
It's like, wow, okay. I think of like sports too. I think of like LeBron James. Like, how great would a team with 5 LeBron James be? Not that great, because he needs guys that are going to
set him up.
Like, you have, like, the way that they construct his teams are usually a bunch of outside shooters, guys that are really good at shooting three-pointers, because what happens is it forces the defense to come out and guard those guys, and it leaves the middle wide open for LeBron, and nobody can guard him when he's got a lot of space inside the key, So that's how the diversity works, is you have people that have different characteristics and traits. Like Ingrid brings something different to the podcast than what I bring, and we complement each other.
Yeah, if it was two of me, we'd both just be fucking crying over here, pulling out our hair.
Exactly. All right, Friday, September 9th, Mercury's retrograde. It moved into its retrograde shadow on August 20th. It's going to be retrograde until October 2nd. It moves out of its retrograde shadow on October 16th. It's in Libra. So we're really learning. Maybe we're walking back some words that we said, communicating differently, thinking about what we've said, wanting to say it differently, changing our minds about our thoughts. I wish I didn't say what I said. I need to say something different. Really think about how you're communicating right now. This is also relationships. This could be one of those moments where the exes start coming back in.
Oh, great.
And you're like, oh, wait, why am I with this person? Why, exactly. It's like,
well, maybe they're not coming up like specifically in your field, physically, but
yeah.
The idea that you just said of maybe I could have did something differently, maybe I could have said something differently.
If you're thinking about them, if they even pop up in your mind, in your thoughts.
And if you're, maybe regret is part of it, where you're feeling regretful of something, like maybe
something you said.
Yeah.
And maybe you need to go back and call that person or text that person and clear the air, so to speak.
Well, I was thinking the opposite, actually. So you tell me what you think.
Yeah, tell me.
I was thinking just learning the lesson in doing things differently next time, not necessarily like living in the past and being like, oh my God, I fucked up. I didn't do it right. It could have been different.
That works too. It could be just being graceful with yourself over something you said that you wish you didn't say, and you acknowledge that, and you know that moving forward, you're not going to communicate to whoever you're in a relationship with, whatever type of relationship it is. You're not going to communicate that way.
I mean,
anymore.
Maybe it can be both. Maybe reflecting with yourself and coming to that conclusion, but then maybe sharing it with the people you might have hurt.
I mean, every situation's unique. I can't say, no, don't talk to that person again. Or I also can't say that you should talk to that person again, because it's unique to your situation. But these are just, hopefully some helpful examples, and you'll do what's right for you. But Venus is going to, or Mercury is going to be in Libra until September 23rd. Then it retrogrades back into Virgo. And that's when the retrograde shifts back to really being analytical and detailed and getting inside your thoughts and creating that greater efficiency in your daily life.
So, maybe this whole time here, these next 2 weeks and even lingering afterwards, is really just asking ourselves how we could have done things differently and being graceful about it moving forward. Just, really looking at our past relationships and seeing what we could have done better. And instead of ruminating on it and getting into a black hole, just learning those lessons and moving forward with grace.
Yes.
Because when we learn the lessons and we bring it with us, then we hopefully, with practice, maybe it's retrograde, so maybe you try to practice it, but then, you have to revisit it a couple times where you're like, okay, I tried doing it in a more graceful way this time and I kind of stumbled, but like next time I'm going to, try again, and you're just going to get better at it.
Well, that's sort of the thing. I think what's going to happen in this retrograde is like, you're going to have that thought of that person where you said the thing that you wish you didn't say and you wish you could take it back. But because Mercury's retrograde and things are very intense, you may be in a situation like that situation in the past where you find yourself on the precipice of saying that thing again that got you into trouble that you wish you didn't say in the past. And so
It's a new
pump the
opportunity.
brakes,
It's an opportunity.
slow down. Yeah, it's an opportunity to express yourself in a way that is more eloquent and graceful than you did in the past. But we're going to have to slow down during this period to do so.
I really like, a lot of the time we just talk about like, oh, it's like negative, the retrograde. Oh no. But when you're able to revisit something from your past, and if we slow down, like you said, we can do it in a new way. And that's where the healing takes place. So instead of avoiding and just being like, oh, fuck the retrograde, I'm not going to do or say anything because like that's a bad time for communication. It's like, it's also a time for revisiting these things for a second round, a revision.
Yes, absolutely. That's the cycle. It's got to come back so that you learn to do it again, because you didn't learn it the first time. And you probably didn't even learn it the second time. Maybe by the third time you're starting to get it. So for those that have key astrological points or planets in the first 8 degrees of Cancer and Capricorn, this is where communication is going to be tense. And I'm looking at you, Ingrid, because your moon is at 8 degrees in Cancer.
Fuck, I
And
knew
that's
it.
where the retrograde begins. So there
Okay.
could be something coming up with emotions for you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which I know you love. Lots of tears and crying. But you know what? Yeah. Try to just step through it and take responsibility for where you are and be an adult in the situation.
Yeah, I'm thinking that like a lot of the time I can get sad and think of like, oh, what if this and what if that and what if this? And it's like moving forward and taking the lesson and trying it again and doing a little better and trying it again and doing a little better and making that the focus and doing better instead of not living in the past. Like the emotions are rooted in the past, and so it can feel very sensitive when something's coming up that reminds you of something else in the past. But if we learn from it, then maybe we'll be happier this time because we aren't doing things the way we've always done them.
Yes.
And it can be sad to think about like, well, what if? But like, there's literally no such thing.
Exactly.
The only thing that you can do is learn from the past. You can't redo it. There's
Exactly.
no redos.
No. That's it. And if you learn from the past, then hopefully you don't make the same mistakes from the past. But after September 23rd and all the way to the end of Mercury retrograde, and then leading up to when it moves back into Libra, which will be on October 10th. So we're saying September 23rd to October 10th, that's when Mercury is going to be retrograde and moving forward again through Virgo. And this is degrees 24 to 29. So if you were born with key astrological points or planets at or near to 24 to 29 degrees in Gemini and Sagittarius, communication, coordination, conscious mind will be rough for you potentially. So
That's the slowing down part.
slowing down,
I mean, if we're off
be
balance,
compassionate instead of critical. Yes.
if we're like off balance and we're trying to walk like on a balance beam or something, it's like we're trying to run across it. We're obviously going to fall and trip, or like our balance is off. It's like, okay, if you slow down, take a few deep breaths, collect yourself, and be very intentional. Even if everything is clumsy, you're not going to fall and eat shit and like, put your foot in your mouth. Just, collect yourself, move slower.
Yes.
Try to move more gracefully. Like the
Yes.
intention is so important. If you make that intention, even if you don't perfect it, you're going to at least do better than you would be doing if you had no intention at all.
Exactly.
Just be mindful.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Saturday.
Oh my gosh, I did want to say something
Yeah,
I
let's
forgot
say it.
about. I feel like there's been so many announcements, but on the website, if you go to our shop page,
Oh, yeah.
there is some affiliates. So right now, if you go buy anything from Moon Juice through our website,
Moon juice?
Moon juice. It's
Wait, moon juice?
why are you saying that? Moon juice.
This is your ultimate, Ingrid. This is...
I know. I love moon juice. It's like my first love. They have all these like adaptogens. They have herbs. They have smoothies. They have fucking face stuff. They have all this like gorgeous adaptogen mushroom shit that's in everything that I'm obsessed with. And if you go buy stuff through our website, then they give us a small cut of the sales, and then we would be very grateful. So, and also I love sharing moon juice with everyone. So I think it's pretty
you've
fucking
been
cool.
sharing moon juice
For free for
free
years.
yeah, since we started this podcast, basically. You've been talking about moon juice.
I know, I'm pretty stoked.
Awesome. Okay, Saturday, September 10th. The full moon in Pisces. So I'm just thinking like, wow, September 9th is Mercury Retrograde, September 10th, the full moon. Like what's going to be happening this Thursday, Friday, Saturday?
Lots of tears?
I mean, I don't know. It's, maybe lots of tears. Pisces is mutable water. It's symbolized by the fish. So tears are water. So maybe.
I mean, a release regardless, right? Even if there's no tears.
It's going to be a release, but it's like building up to that release is just like intense. So this full moon, yes, full moon in Pisces, we've been taking a very critical look at ourselves with the sun in Virgo. In order for the moon to be full in Pisces, the sun has to be in Virgo, because Pisces is opposite Virgo, and the moon full in Pisces would mean that it's fully reflecting the light of the sun, which would mean that the sun would need to be directly opposite the moon, and the sign that's opposite Pisces is Virgo. So these are the two signs that rule the mind. Virgo is the conscious mind. Pisces is the unconscious mind. So for the last 17 days, the sun is bringing that light, life, and vitality to the most critical, analytical, organizational, perfectionist, detail-oriented, need for efficiency sign, Virgo. So, over these last 17 days, we've maybe been critical of ourselves. We've been overly analytical. We've been looking at every blemish and nuance of what we've done wrong and how we're a failure because we're not perfect. And so the moon in Pisces brings an emotional sensitivity to our psychological baggage, the guilt, the shame, the regret, the blame. But ultimately, what it's doing is it's wanting to bring compassion to these areas. Compassion for the overanalyzation, compassion for the critical nature, compassion for the guilt and the shame over not being perfect, over not doing it the right way, so that we can integrate these thought patterns and memories with understanding, forgiveness, and love. So the full moon is a release. So what guilt would you like to release during this full moon? What criticisms of yourself would you like to release during this full moon? What blame? What are you blaming yourself for, or what are you blaming someone else for that you would like to release during this full moon? This is about clearing the decks, and there could be a lot coming up here with Mercury retrograde stopped. Minds are going nuts. Mercury's not moving. It's just stuck at 8 degrees. It's going to be there for like 10 days. So it's really forcing us, our mind in one direction. We're being obsessive maybe. What about these obsessive qualities, these OCD qualities, do you want to release during this full moon? And I will say, if you'd like to learn about how this or the next moon transit, actually, the new moon in Libra, and the full moon in Aries, how they are affecting you directly, enroll in my moon cycle classes at theweeklytransit.com. Any reflection from you, Ingrid?
I mean, the Virgo is there to be the critic, and it is very important. And this is like aligning the conscious with the unconscious. So it's like we have to consciously pick ourselves apart and decide all the things that we don't like about ourselves. And that can be kind of dark and kind of fucked up, but also it's important to decide what is working and what is not working. We should be picking it apart, but also not holding on to it forever. We pick it apart and then we release what we don't want to have anymore. We have to let it go, and that clears out our unconscious. So when the conscious and the unconscious come together, that can be very healing. Like letting go of all these things you don't like, not dwelling on them and lingering on them and just holding them tight forever and hating on yourself. Yeah, I don't like these things about myself. I'm going to change them, and I'm going to let them go into the ether. I'm going to fix them. I'm going to heal. It's a process. And when we get stuck and we're not releasing, like that's when the issue is. So following the rhythm
Then you're not improving. You're not doing the work if you're constantly blaming yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah, this is just a reminder to also do the work of seeing what you don't like about yourself. That's part of being a human, but then being able to release it so you can heal and move forward with your life. Otherwise, yeah, like you're just stuck. It's like you're reliving something over and over and over and not learning from it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, releases, sometimes it seems more effort to set intentions than to release, but the release is just as important. Deciding what you want to let go of can be so powerful. You got to make way for something new. If you don't release something, you won't be able to call in something else. It's like you have
so
like
funny
a hoarder status.
Yeah. Hoarder status. Yeah. If you don't clear out your space, then how can you invite something new into your space? It's just funny, like this whole releasing stuff, because I just think of Virgo. Virgo rules the intestines. And what are the intestines all about? Digesting and eliminating what is no longer serving your body.
So if we're not releasing them, we're like emotionally constipated.
Emotionally constipated, exactly. So this full moon is about releasing your emotional constipation.
I mean, that can also mean eating healthier. Virgo season is about cleansing. It's like when we're feeling lighter physically, it's going to be easier to like let things go emotionally. When we're feeling like mentally, like if we're feeling nurtured physically, emotionally, we are going to be a bit softer.
I've said it so many times during this Virgo season, and I will continue to say it. Pay attention to what you're putting into your body and how it's affecting your mind. Pay attention to what you're putting into your mind and how it's affecting your body.
It goes both ways. When I eat, I'm getting so excited. This microphone's going to fly out of here. Yeah, when you're eating like shit, you're not going to feel good. And then it's like, it comes out in your communication, in your emotions. It's just like, and then when you're like feeding your mind with a bunch of shit, it's like your heart feels tight. Your stomach feels tight. Your like digestion is not good. It's like, and that's just from our mind. That's not even from the food. So it's like, we have to do both. They feed right into each other, and we're nurturing our emotions and our nutrition and being kind to ourselves and nurturing. We're going to feel better physically and emotionally.
Yes. That's right. That's right. Okay, Sunday, September 11th. The moon in Virgo, again, connecting with Uranus in Taurus. So this is...
Yeah, and then also we already had like
Uranus
and Taurus
here,
earlier
right?
in the week,
feel like
and now
that,
it's like...
kind of, or... Yeah, a couple times we've talked about it. We talked about it on Tuesday, connecting to the moon, on Thursday, connecting to the moon. So Tuesday was the moon in Capricorn, Thursday was the moon in Aquarius, and now it's the sun in Virgo connecting to Uranus and Taurus. So this is another Earth connection. It's about grounding in. You released what you had to release. You've been working on your values, your self-worth. You released through the full moon whatever it was you've been blaming yourself for, been critical about yourself, you're like, okay, that's not serving me anymore. I know what I value. I know my self-worth. I'm ready to put it into practice in my daily routine. This is setting the schedule. This is reaffirming the schedule. This is getting the schedule into that nuanced place where it's like, okay, now I'm flowing. It's Mercury retrograde, but you know what? I had a plan because they told us on the weekly transit that on August 20th, take stock of where you are in your life and what you're working towards in your daily routine and your relationships, and where do you want to be by September 9th when Mercury retrogrades? Where do you want to be by October 2nd when the retrograde ends? Where do you want to be by October 16th when Mercury moves out of its retrograde shadow? So you have your plan. There may be bumps in the road, but those bumps are to help you recognize what needs to be eliminated so that you can flow more freely to where you want to go, where you want to be. So this hopefully is that day where you're really feeling the independence in your daily life, and you feel independent because you're working on what it is you enjoy, what feels good, or what's getting you to where you want to go.
It seems like a good day for appreciation. The Uranus and Taurus is like doing things in a new way in the material world and your self-worth. And Virgo is there, in the sun in Virgo is there kind of like staring right at it. It's like you're doing things in a new way, and that is fulfilling. And we critiqued everything before, but now the critic is looking at it and is like, oh yeah, we fixed some shit. We let some shit go. And now, like you said, it's a reward. We're feeling good about ourselves for doing some work.
Yes, that's it. And letting shit go, I'm going to say right now, I want to thank my mom and dad for raising me the way that they did. I'm going to forgive my younger self for being I don't want to say an idiot.
I thought that's what you were going to say.
I was going to.
Immature?
But immature. I like that. For being immature and making choices that were not smart or within my best interest or anyone else's best interest that I came into contact with. That I'm grateful for those experiences because it taught me the maturity that I needed. And I'm very thankful to God and the universe, whatever higher power or powers are out there that have been guiding me and protecting those around me so that I could be here and talking to you, Ingrid, about astrology.
And guiding all of us. Right?
I'm just
well, I feel like if you didn't have all these crazy experiences, you wouldn't have anything to share with me to be able to make me feel like, okay, that's just how life goes and it's going to get better. You have to work on these things. It's like we can look back and regret, but then if we didn't have those, there would be no way to relate to other people because we're all struggling. Yeah.
And life will get better, but then it will also get harder in other areas. And that's just the truth. That's the cycle of life. That's the cycle. Is life gets better, but then harder at the same time in different areas. So,
I mean, you always like to say we're all living in our own personal hell. And somehow that's so comforting and brings about compassion for ourselves and for everyone else.
Yes.
It's not easy. It's not easy.
No, it's a grind. And it's meant to be a grind because that's how our souls get reshaped and turned into from the rock to the diamond.
I think that's it for the week. I think we shared a lot, but I think that, I don't know, I had a great time.
Okay, good. Awesome. So did I, Ingrid. Thank you so much.
I will see you next week.
See you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Weekly Transit. Follow us on Instagram for daily updates about the planetary alignments and how to work with the energy. If this podcast is helping you navigate life more gracefully, please subscribe, rate us 5 stars, and share with your friends. If you're ready to go deeper, book a personal reading with Scott or sign up for his new moon, full moon class at theweeklytransit.com.
The Weekly Transit.